The gun was already pointed at my chest when I realized whose face was in that portrait. Let me back up. You need to understand how I got here. Standing in a billionaire's office at midnight, heart pounding, staring at a painting that just shattered everything I thought I knew about my father's death. My name is Maya Collins, and 6 hours ago, I was just trying to survive another shift. The restaurant sat on top of Manhattan like a crown made of glass and gold. Up there, the air smelled like money, that weird mix of imported flowers, aged wine, and cologne that costs more than my rent. Down on street level, the city was choking on August heat and car exhaust. But up here, cool as a morgue, quiet as a church, and twice as judgmental. I balanced a tray of champagne glasses, my second-hand uniform pinching my shoulders with every step. The shoes I'd bought at Goodwill were murdering my feet, but I smiled anyway. That's what invisible people do. We smile, we serve, we disappear. The guests barely looked at me. Why would they? I was furniture with a pulse. They were too busy laughing about their third homes and complaining about their yacht captains. Meanwhile, I was calculating whether I could afford both my mom's oxygen tank refill and groceries this week. Spoiler alert. I couldn't. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. My manager, Dennis, caught my arm as I passed the kitchen. His grip was tight, his face sweaty. Collins, private office. Now. My stomach dropped. What did I do? Nothing. VIP service. Top floor just opened up for Reeves himself. Jonathan Reeves. Even his name felt expensive. I'd seen him on magazine covers at the grocery store checkout. Sharp jaw, sharper suit, eyes that looked like they could calculate your net worth while shaking your hand. The headlines called him a genius. A visionary. The man who turned solar patents into a billion-dollar empire before he was 30. To me, he was just another rich guy who'd never noticed the woman refilling his water glass. Why me? I asked. Dennis shrugged. You're clean. You show up. You don't steal silverware. Go. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like rising into heaven, if heaven had marble walls and gold-trimmed mirrors. My reflection looked tired. Dark circles under my eyes. Hair pulled back so tight it gave me a headache. This uniform was supposed to make us all look the same, but somehow, I just looked poor. The doors opened with a soft chime. The office hit me like a punch. It wasn't just big, it was a statement. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the whole city spread out like a circuit board, lights twinkling in the dark. Real paintings hung on mahogany walls, the kind you see behind velvet ropes in museums. The desk was bigger than my kitchen. Everything screamed power, control, permanence. And then I saw it. The portrait hung on the far wall, lit by its own spotlight like something sacred. Two men shaking hands, both smiling, standing in front of what looked like engineering blueprints. Solar panels, circuit diagrams, equations I didn't understand. One man was clearly Jonathan Reeves, maybe 10 years younger but unmistakable. The other man made my tray shake in my hands. My father, David Collins, dead 20 years. Supposedly killed in a factory fire when I was 7. A machinist, my mom always said. Just a regular working guy who'd been in the wrong place at wrong time. But there he was, larger than life, shaking hands with a billionaire like they were partners. Like equals. My father had laugh lines around his eyes in that painting. He looked happy, proud. Nothing like the grainy, sad photo we kept in a drawer at home. The only picture we had left after the fire. I stepped closer, forgetting the tray, forgetting where I was. The blueprint behind them had text I could barely read. Project Phoenix, Prototype Solar Array, Collins and Reeves Energy Solutions. Collins and Reeves. My last name. My father's name. The room tilted. Blood rushed in my ears. This wasn't possible. My father was nobody. We were nobody. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens where the heat barely worked and the landlord ignored our calls. My mom cleaned offices at night and still couldn't afford her medications. If my father had been partners with Jonathan Reeves, where was our share? Where was anything? The sound of voices snapped me back. I turned just as the door opened. Jonathan Reeves walked in mid-laugh, surrounded by men in expensive suits. He was taller than I expected, moving with that easy confidence rich people have, like the world was built to get out of their way. His eyes swept the room and landed on me, standing directly under the portrait, staring at it like I'd seen a ghost. His laugh died. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint. For just a second, the billionaire genius looked like a man who'd seen something impossible. Something terrifying. Our eyes locked. My mouth moved before my brain caught up. "Sir." My voice cracked. "Why is my father in your office portrait?" The room went silent. One of the men behind Reeves cleared his throat. Another checked his phone like he hadn't heard. But Reeves just stared at me, his jaw tight, a muscle twitching in his temple. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "That man." I pointed at the painting, my hand shaking. "David Collins. That's my father. He died 20 years ago. Why is he in a picture with you?" Reeves's face did something complicated. Shock, anger, fear. Then it all vanished behind a mask so smooth it was like watching a door slam shut. "Gentlemen," he said without looking away from me, "give us the room." "Jonathan, we haven't finished." "Now." They left. The door clicked shut like a coffin closing. We were alone. Reeves walked slowly toward his desk, each step deliberate, controlled. He didn't look at the portrait. He didn't look at me. He poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter, his hand perfectly steady now. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maya Collins." He took a sip. "Who sent you here?" "Nobody sent me. I work here. I'm a waitress. And you just happened to be assigned to this office tonight." His tone was flat, suspicious. "My manager sent me up. I didn't ask for this." He turned finally, studying me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. David Collins was a very troubled man. He was my father. He worked with me briefly. A long time ago. It ended badly. He died in a fire. Yes. Something flickered across his face. "I heard." "Then why is he in your painting? Why does it say Collins and Reeves Energy Solutions?" "My mom said he was just a machinist. We have nothing. We never had anything." Reeves set down his glass carefully. "Miss Collins, there are things about your father you don't understand. Complicated things. Painful things. Sometimes the past is better left buried." I finished. "Like him." His jaw clenched. "I think you should leave. I think you should tell me the truth." For a long moment, we just stared at each other. A waitress and a billionaire. A nobody and a king. Then he pressed a button on his desk. Two security guards appeared so fast they must have been waiting outside. "Escort Miss Collins out," Reeves said quietly. "She's finished for the evening. Wait. And make a note. She's no longer employed at this establishment." The guards took my arms. Not rough but firm. Professional. I struggled anyway. "What are you hiding?" I shouted as they pulled me toward the door. "What did you do to him?" Reeves finally looked at me again. Really looked. His eyes were empty, but his hands were shaking. "Some doors," he said quietly, "should stay closed." They dragged me to the elevator. The last thing I saw before the doors shut was Jonathan Reeves standing under that portrait, staring at my father's face like he was looking at a ghost he thought he'd buried forever. The elevator dropped. My stomach dropped with it. I'd lost my job. I had no money. My mom needed medicine I couldn't afford. But I'd also just found something impossible. My father hadn't just worked with Jonathan Reeves. They'd been partners. And something about that partnership had scared the most powerful man in New York so badly that he'd gone pale just seeing my face. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. The photograph of that portrait was blurry, but clear enough. Clear enough to see my father's smile. Clear enough to read those words. Project Phoenix. In my pocket, I still carried the one thing I had left of my dad. His old wristwatch, broken and worthless, that my mom had given me on my 16th birthday. The back was engraved with words I'd never understood, The truth sets the world on fire. I thought it was just something poetic. Now, standing in that elevator, dropping back down to street level where people like me belonged, I wondered if it was a warning. The doors opened to chaos. Dennis was already waiting, his face red. "You're done, Collins. What the hell did you say to him?" I walked past without answering. Outside, the August heat hit me like a wall. The city smelled like garbage and rain. Sirens wailed somewhere close. This was my world. Not glass towers and champagne. Not portraits and partnership deals. But my father's face in that painting wasn't a lie. Which meant everything else was. I started walking, my cheap shoes clicking on the concrete, my mind racing. Jonathan Reeves thought firing me would make me disappear. He thought I'd slink back into whatever hole poor people crawl into and forget what I'd seen. He was wrong. 20 years ago, something happened between my father and that billionaire. Something worth hiding. Something worth erasing from history. And whatever it was, it had gotten my father killed. I pulled up my mom's number, then stopped. She'd always been terrified when I asked about Dad. Always changed the subject. Always looked scared. Now I knew why. She'd been protecting me from something. Or maybe protecting someone else's secret. I needed answers. Real ones. And I knew exactly where to start. The city archives opened at 8 a.m. I had 12 hours to figure out what questions to ask. 12 hours before my mom noticed I'd lost my job. 12 hours before the rent was due and the world came crashing down. But first I had to know. Who was David Collins really? What was Project Phoenix? And why would a billionaire's hands shake at the mention of a dead man's name? I looked back at the glowing tower one last time. Somewhere up there, Jonathan Reeves was probably making calls, covering tracks, burying whatever I'd accidentally dug up. He had money, power, lawyers, and an empire. I had nothing but a broken watch and a photograph of a lie. But I also had something he didn't. I had nothing left to lose. So what would you do? If you found out everything you'd been told about your father's death was a lie, would you walk away or dig deeper, even if it destroyed you? Drop your answer in the comments, because what Maya does next changes everything. And trust me, by morning, she's going to wish she'd never seen that portrait. The nurse was lying. I could tell by the way her eyes shifted left when she said my mother was sleeping. By the way she positioned herself in the doorway like a human barricade. By the nervous flutter of her fingers against the clipboard. Mrs. Collins needs rest, Maya. Come back in the morning. It was 3 in the morning. I'd just been fired, humiliated, and had my entire understanding of my father's life shattered. Morning felt like a decade away. I need to see her, I said. Visiting hours. I pay for this room. Barely. With money I no longer had coming in. Move. She didn't. But her face did something interesting. A flash of pity mixed with something else. Fear, maybe. Did someone tell you not to let me in? I asked quietly. Her silence was answer enough. I pushed past her, not caring anymore about politeness or rules. My mom's room was at the end of the hall, the cheap one near the ice machine that clunked all night. The door was closed. I opened it anyway. My mother was awake. And she was crying. Margaret Collins sat in her hospital bed, oxygen tubes in her nose, hands clutching a photograph so old the edges had gone soft. The same photograph I'd seen 1,000 times. My father on their wedding day, young and smiling, his arm around her waist. But she wasn't looking at the photo. She was staring at my phone, which was somehow in her lap, open to the picture I'd taken. The portrait. My father and Jonathan Reeves. Her face was pale. Tears streaked her cheeks. And when she saw me in the doorway, she looked terrified. Maya! Her voice was a whisper. What did you do? I closed the door behind me, my heart hammering. How did you get my phone? The nurse. She said someone called. Said you'd been in an accident. That I needed to unlock your emergency contacts. She held up the phone with shaking hands. I saw your photos. I saw this. We stared at each other across the small room. The oxygen machine hissed. Somewhere down the hall, someone moaned in pain. "You knew," I said finally. "You knew he worked with Reeves." "Baby, please. Don't." I stepped closer. "Don't call me baby and lie to my face. Not anymore. That painting is in Reeves's private office. It says Collins and Reeves Energy Solutions. It says Project Phoenix. You told me Dad was a machinist who died in a factory fire." "He did die in a fire. But he wasn't a machinist." She closed her eyes. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "No, he wasn't." The admission hit me like a slap. All those years. All those times I'd asked about him and she'd shut down, changed the subject, looked away. Every lie had been deliberate. Who was he really? I asked. My mother's hands twisted the sheet. He was brilliant. Too brilliant. He saw things other people couldn't. Patterns in energy, in light, in the way the sun hit solar panels. He could have changed the world. With Reeves. They were friends once. College roommates. Your father had the ideas. Jonathan had the business sense. They started the company together in their 20s. 50-50 partners. Project Phoenix was supposed to be their masterpiece. I sat down hard in the visitor's chair. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. "So what happened?" I asked. "Why are we poor? Why did he die? Why have you been lying to me for 20 years? She opened her eyes. They looked old, haunted. "Because Jonathan Reeves is a dangerous man. And your father found out too late." Before I could respond, my mother's monitor started beeping. Not the steady rhythm I was used to. Something faster, panicked. She clutched her chest, gasping. I lunged for the call button, but she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "Listen," she wheezed. "No time. They're listening. They're always listening. Mom, you need a doctor." Phoenix wasn't just solar panels. It was a weapon. Your father didn't know. Not until the military came. Reeves sold it. Sold everything. Your father tried to stop him. The beeping got louder. Her grip on my wrist tightened. "The fire wasn't an accident, Maya. Reeves killed him. And he'll kill you too if you don't stop." "Stop what? Mom, what are you talking about?" The door burst open. Nurses flooded in, pushing me aside. Someone was shouting codes I didn't understand. The doctor appeared from nowhere, all business and urgency. I was shoved into the hallway. Through the window, I watched them work on my mother. Saw her body jerk as they shocked her heart. Saw the monitors spike and fall and spike again. The same nurse from earlier stood next to me, no longer blocking anything. How did someone get her phone number? I asked without looking at her. "This is a private room. We're unlisted." She didn't answer. I turned to face her. "Who called you?" "I don't know." The voice was automated. It just said there'd been an accident involving Maya Collins and we needed to contact her family. "Show me the call log." "I can't." "Show me." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Pulled up the recent calls. The number that had called was blocked. But the timestamp was there. 11:47 p.m. 20 minutes after I'd been thrown out of Reeves' tower. My blood went cold. "He knew," I whispered. "He knew I'd come here." The nurse looked confused. "Who knew?" But I was already moving, pulling out my own phone, scrolling through settings I barely understood. Location services. On. Photo backup. On. Cloud sync. On. Every picture I'd taken had uploaded automatically, which meant someone could be tracking every move I made. I powered down the phone completely, hands shaking. Through the window, the doctor was stepping back from my mother's bed. The monitors had stabilized. She was breathing again, barely, but breathing. The doctor came out looking exhausted. "She's stable, but her heart is weak, Maya. Whatever upset her tonight, it nearly killed her." "Can I see her?" "She's sedated. She needs rest. Come back in the morning." Morning again. Everyone wanted me to wait until morning, like the truth would somehow be easier in daylight. I nodded and walked toward the elevator, very aware of the cameras in every corner. Very aware that my phone was probably compromised. Very aware that someone powerful was watching. The question was what to do about it. Outside, the pre-dawn air was cool. The city was quiet in that strange way it gets between night and morning, like the whole place was holding its breath. I needed help. Real help. Someone who knew how to fight people like Reeves. Someone who couldn't be bought or scared off. I thought about going to the police, but what would I even say? A billionaire maybe killed my father 20 years ago based on my dying mother's cryptic warning? They'd laugh me out of the building. I needed proof. Evidence. Something solid. Which meant I needed to find out what Project Phoenix really was. I started walking, no destination in mind, just moving. My feet carried me past closed shops and empty bus stops. Past homeless people sleeping in doorways and early morning delivery trucks rumbling through intersections. That's when I saw it. A 24-hour internet cafe, the kind that caters to gamers and insomniacs. The windows were fogged up, the inside glowing blue from dozens of computer screens. I went in. The guy at the counter barely looked up. I paid cash for 2 hours of computer time and took a station in the back corner, away from the windows. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Where do you even start when you're trying to uncover a 20-year-old conspiracy? I typed, Project Phoenix Solar Energy. Nothing useful. Just recent solar companies, none connected to Reeves. I tried, Jonathan Reeves' early career. His Wikipedia page came up. Business school. First company at 24. Rapid expansion. Nothing about a partner named Collins. I sat back, frustrated. Of course there wouldn't be anything obvious. You don't become a billionaire by leaving evidence lying around. Then I remembered something my father used to say. Before he died, back when I was little, he'd tuck me in at night and whisper, "Always read the footnotes, Maya Bug. That's where the truth hides." I went back to the Wikipedia page, scrolled down to the references section, clicked through to a business journal article from 25 years ago. And there it was. A small mention in a larger piece about startup culture. Reeves and his partner, David Collins, have attracted significant military interest in their energy project, codenamed Phoenix. Military interest. My mother's words echoed. It was a weapon. I clicked deeper, following links, cross-referencing names. Most of the original articles were gone, scrubbed from the internet or buried under search engine optimization. But archives existed. Digital libraries. Academic databases. I found a patent filing from 24 years ago. Inventors, Jonathan Reeves and David Collins. Title, High-Density Solar Collection Array with Focused Energy Discharge Capability. The technical language was beyond me, but I understood enough. This wasn't just about collecting solar energy. It was about concentrating it, weaponizing it. My father had helped invent a solar-powered weapon. I kept digging. A news brief from 20 years ago, buried in the back pages of a local paper. Fire at Energy Research Facility claims 1 life. The article was 3 sentences long. No details. No investigation mentioned. Just a name. David Collins, 34, killed in accidental blaze. Accidental. I searched for follow-up articles. Nothing. It was like the story had been erased. But I found something else. A letter to the editor, published 2 weeks after my father's death, from someone named Dr. Elena Shaw. I write regarding the tragic death of David Collins. As a former colleague, I find the official explanation insufficient. David was meticulous about safety protocols. The idea that he would cause an accidental fire is absurd. His family deserves a real investigation. The paper's response was printed below. We appreciate Dr. Shaw's concern, but the matter has been closed by local authorities. I searched for Elena Shaw. Found her on an outdated university faculty page. Professor of Applied Physics. Specialization. Solar energy conversion. The page was old. I checked if she was still listed as faculty. She wasn't. I searched for her name with the university. Found a memorial page. Dr. Elena Shaw. Died 6 years ago. Car accident. My stomach twisted. Was it paranoia to think that was suspicious? Or was I finally seeing the pattern? My father. Dead in a fire. Dr. Shaw. Dead in an accident. Anyone who knew the truth about Project Phoenix seemed to end up dead. I was about to close the browser when an instant message window popped up on the screen. From an unknown user. Stop searching. They're watching. My heart stopped. I looked around the cafe. The gamers were focused on their screens. The counter guy was on his phone. No one was paying attention to me. I typed back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "Someone who knew your father. You're in danger. Delete your search history and leave. Now." "How do I know you're real?" "Check your pocket." Confused, I reached into my coat pocket. My fingers touched something that wasn't there before. A small USB drive. My blood ran cold. I'd been alone since I got here. No one had come near me. Or had they? I looked at the screen. Another message appeared. "That drive has everything. But if you look at it, there's no going back. Reeves will know. He'll come for you. You have one chance to walk away. Maya. Take it." My hands shook as I held the tiny drive. It was warm, like someone had just been carrying it. "Who are you?" I typed. "Your father's ghost. Or his only living friend. Does it matter? What matters is what you do next. Run or fight. Choose fast." The screen went black. Not just the message window. The entire computer shut down, like someone had pulled the plug remotely. I sat in the dark glow of the dead monitor, holding a USB drive that had appeared in my pocket like magic, while somewhere in the city, someone was watching me make a choice. My mother was in a hospital bed because I'd asked questions. My father was dead because he'd found answers. And now I held those answers in my hand, small enough to hide, dangerous enough to kill for. The smart move was to throw it away. Go home. Pretend tonight never happened. Let the past stay buried with my father. But when did being smart ever feel like being right? I pocketed the drive and stood up. The guy at the counter looked up as I passed. "Computer crash?" "Something like that," I said. Outside, the sun was starting to rise. The city was waking up. People heading to jobs, to lives, to normal Tuesday mornings where their fathers were who they said they were and billionaires didn't kill people for asking questions. I wasn't one of those people anymore. I pulled out the USB drive and looked at it in the gray morning light. This thing was either going to give me the truth or get me killed. Maybe both. So I'm asking you, if someone handed you proof that could destroy a billionaire but also destroy your life, would you look? Would you fight? Or would you walk away? Because Maya's about to make that choice. And depending on what's on that drive, morning might be the last normal thing she ever sees. The apartment smelled like death and lavender air freshener. I stood in the doorway of the place I'd called home for 15 years, and suddenly it looked different. The worn couch where my mom and I watched game shows. The kitchen table with the wobbly leg we'd never fixed. The photograph of my father on the shelf, smiling like he didn't have secrets that could kill people. Everything looked the same. Everything was a lie. I locked the door behind me and shoved a chair under the handle. Probably useless against whoever had slipped a USB drive into my pocket without me noticing, but it made me feel better. The drive sat on the table in front of me like a tiny bomb. I'd stopped at an electronics store on the way home and bought a cheap laptop with cash. No internet connection. No cloud backup. No way for anyone to track what I was about to see. If I was gonna look at this thing, I was doing it off the grid. My hands shook as I opened the laptop. The screen glowed to life, bright and neutral, waiting for me to make a choice I couldn't take back. You ever have one of those moments where you know your life is about to split in two? Before and after. The person you were and the person you're about to become. This was mine. I picked up the USB drive. "I'm sorry, Mom," I whispered to the empty apartment. And I plugged it in. The drive took a moment to load. Then a folder appeared. No label. Just a series of files with dates going back 24 years. I clicked the first one. A video player opened. The footage was grainy, shot on an old camera, but clear enough. A laboratory. White walls. Equipment I didn't recognize. And two men standing in front of a large panel covered in solar cells. My father and Jonathan Reeves. They looked so young. My dad couldn't have been more than 30, his hair still dark, his face unlined. He was laughing at something Reeves had said, gesturing excitedly at the panel behind them. I turned up the volume. Calibration is perfect, my father was saying. Jonathan, we did it. We actually did it. Reeves grinned, and for a moment he looked almost human. Your design, David. I just wrote the checks. Our design. Partners, remember. They shook hands, both of them beaming like kids on Christmas morning. I watched my father, alive and happy, and something broke inside my chest. I'd been 7 when he died. My memories of him were fragments. The smell of his aftershave. The way he'd lift me onto his shoulders. His voice reading bedtime stories. But this version of him, confident, brilliant, full of life. I'd never known this man. The video continued. The military contract is going to change everything, Reeves said. We'll have funding for 100 more projects. My father's smile faded slightly. As long as we control how they use it. Phoenix is designed for energy independence, not. Of course, Reeves cut in smoothly. We'll have final say on all applications. That's in the contract. My father nodded, but he looked uncertain. The video ended. I sat back, my heart pounding. That was it. That's what someone thought was worth sneaking into my pocket? I clicked the next file. Another video. Same lab. But the timestamp was 6 months later. This time, my father was alone, talking directly into the camera. His face was drawn, exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. This is David Collins. April 19th. I'm recording this as, I don't know, insurance, maybe, or evidence. He ran a hand through his hair, looking off camera like he was checking if anyone was listening. Jonathan changed the contract. The military has full rights to Phoenix now. Not just usage rights. Full ownership. He did it without telling me. I found out yesterday when I saw the paperwork. My father's voice cracked. He sold it, Elena. He sold everything we built. And when I confronted him, he said I was being naive. That this is how business works. That I should trust him. He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes intense. I don't trust him anymore. He's planning something. I can feel it. The way he looks at me now, it's different. Like I'm a problem he needs to solve. A sound off camera made him jump. He quickly shut off the recording. The video ended. I clicked the next one, faster now, my hands steadier. More videos. More recordings. A timeline of my father's growing paranoia and fear. In one, he was showing documents to the camera. Military requisition forms. Budget allocations for something called Project Phoenix Weaponization. They're not using it for energy, he said, his voice shaking with anger. They're building it into targeting systems. Drone-mounted solar weapons that can burn through tank armor. This was supposed to help people. Feed energy to third-world countries. Give power to places that needed it. He slammed the papers down. Jonathan knew. He knew from the beginning. This was always the plan. Another video showed him meeting with a lawyer. I recognized the woman from the earlier search, Dr. Elena Shaw. Can we stop this? My father asked her. She shook her head. Not with the contracts he had you sign. Jonathan owns 60% of the company now. He restructured everything while you were focused on the research. 60%. We were 50-50 partners. On paper, yes. But the financing agreements had clauses. He controlled the investor relationships. David, I'm sorry, but legally, he can do whatever he wants with Phoenix. My father looked broken. Then I'll go public. Tell people what this technology really is. What they're planning to do with it. Dr. Shaw grabbed his arm. David, listen to me. Jonathan Reeves doesn't just have money. He has connections. Military contracts. Government relationships. If you go public, you won't just lose the company. You'll disappear. I have a family. Exactly. Think about Margaret. Think about Maya. My father was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'd rather my daughter grow up poor and safe than rich and ashamed of who her father was. The video cut off. Tears were streaming down my face now. I wiped them away angrily and clicked the next file. This one was different. Not a video. A scanned document. A death threat. Typed on plain paper. No signature. Drop this. Final warning. Think about your family. Another document. A police report my father had filed. Report of harassment and threatening communications. Officer's notes at the bottom. Unable to verify source. Advised complainant to contact us if threats escalate. They never got the chance to escalate. 2 weeks later, my father was dead. I opened the last file. It was a video, but the quality was terrible. Shot from a weird angle, like from a security camera. The timestamp read the night my father died. The laboratory again. Dark except for emergency lighting. My father entered the frame, carrying a briefcase. He moved quickly to one of the servers, pulling out drives, stuffing papers into his case. Then the door opened behind him. Jonathan Reeves stepped in. Even in the grainy footage, I could see the gun in his hand. David, I was hoping you'd be smart about this. My father spun around, dropping the briefcase. Papers scattered across the floor. Jonathan, don't do this. You were going to steal from me. From our company. Our company. You stole it from me. You sold our research to build weapons. Reeves moved closer, the gun steady. I built an empire. You wanted to give it away to poor people who can't pay for it. That's not business, David. That's charity. And charity doesn't change the world. Power does. So you're going to kill me? For what? Money. For progress. For the future. You're stuck in the past, David. Stuck on ethics and principles that don't matter anymore. They matter to me. They'll matter to Maya when she's old enough to understand. Reeves hesitated at that. Just for a second. She'll never know, he said quietly. No one will. This is an accident, David. A tragic fire. You were working late, something sparked, and the whole lab went up. It's already been arranged. My father's face went pale. You can't. I already have. Reeves raised the gun. My father lunged at him. The gunshot was deafening even through the bad audio. My father crumpled, clutching his chest, blood spreading across his shirt. Reeves stood over him, breathing hard. I'm sorry, he said. And he actually sounded like he meant it. I really am. You were my friend once. Then he pulled out a lighter. The camera angle shifted slightly, like someone was adjusting it remotely. I realized this wasn't security footage. Someone was watching this live. Recording it deliberately. The last thing I saw was Reeves throwing the lighter onto a pile of papers. Flames erupted across the screen. My father tried to crawl away, still alive, still fighting. The video cut to black. I don't remember the next few minutes. I think I screamed. I think I threw up. I know I ended up on the floor, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. My father hadn't died in an accident. He'd been murdered, shot and burned alive by his best friend. And I just watched it happen. When I could finally move again, I noticed there was one more file I'd missed. A text document. I opened it. Maya, if you're reading this, then I'm dead, and you've found the truth. I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you. I'm sorry for the life this will give you. But you deserve to know who your father really was. Not a machinist. Not a nobody. A man who tried to do the right thing and paid for it. The person who gave you this drive is someone I trusted. They've kept this evidence safe for years, waiting for the right moment. That moment is now. But understand, once you act on this, there's no going back. Reeves has spent 20 years building an empire on stolen technology and murder. He won't let it fall without a fight. You have 3 choices. 1. Destroy this drive and live your life in peace. 2. Turn it over to the authorities and hope they're not in Reeves's pocket. 3. Use it yourself. Make him pay. Whatever you choose, know that I loved you. Know that everything I did was to try and leave you a better world. I failed. Maybe you won't. Your father, David Collins. The letter was dated the day before he died. He'd known Reeves was going to kill him, and he'd prepared for it. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the laptop. 3 choices. Run, hide, or fight. But there was really only one choice, wasn't there? Because somewhere in this city, Jonathan Reeves was sleeping in a mansion built on my father's murder, giving speeches about innovation and progress while my mother worked herself to death trying to survive. He'd taken everything from us. And he thought he'd gotten away with it. I closed the laptop and stood up. My phone was still powered down. I'd need a new one. A burner. No contracts. No traces. I'd need help. Real help. Someone who knew how to fight men like Reeves. And I'd need to be smart. Smarter than my father had been. Because he'd tried to fight alone, and it had gotten him killed. But I wasn't alone anymore. I had proof. Video evidence of murder. Documentation of theft and conspiracy. Everything I needed to destroy Jonathan Reeves. The question was how to use it without ending up like my father. I packed a bag. Clothes. The laptop. The USB drive. The broken watch my father had worn the night he died. Everything that mattered fit in one backpack. Before I left, I stopped at my mother's room. Empty now, but still full of her presence. Her perfume on the dresser. Her reading glasses on the nightstand. I'm going to make this right, I told the empty room. I promise. Then I walked out of the only home I'd ever known. The sun was fully up now. Tuesday morning. People heading to work like normal. But I wasn't normal anymore. I was the daughter of a murdered genius. And I was about to go to war with a billionaire. First stop. Finding whoever had given me that drive. Because they'd kept this evidence safe for 20 years. They'd known about the murder and done nothing. Which meant they either had a plan or they were a coward. I needed to find out which. So here's what I'm wondering. If you had proof that could send a billionaire to prison but might get you killed first, how would you use it? Go straight to the police? The media? Or would you find another way? Drop your thoughts below, because what Maya does next will decide if she lives long enough to get justice. And trust me, the person who gave her that drive is about to reveal themselves. And when they do, everything Maya thinks she knows about her father's death is going to shatter all over again. The coffee was cold by the time I realized the man across from me had a gun. Not pointed at me. Not yet. Just visible under his jacket when he reached for the sugar. A flash of black metal that made my whole body go rigid. His name was Daniel Ward, investigative journalist, or so his email signature claimed. He'd responded to my message within 30 minutes of me sending it, which should have been my first red flag. Nobody moves that fast unless they've been waiting. We were sitting in a diner in Brooklyn, the kind of place where the waitresses call you honey and the coffee tastes like burnt regret. I'd chosen it because it was public, crowded, and far enough from Manhattan that Reeves's people might not be watching. Might not. Daniel looked ordinary. Mid-30s, brown hair going gray at the temples, cheap suit that had seen better days. The kind of face you'd forget 5 minutes after meeting him. Except for his eyes. They were sharp, calculating, scanning the diner like he was memorizing exits. So, he said, stirring his coffee slowly, you have evidence that Jonathan Reeves committed murder 20 years ago. I didn't say that in my email. You said you had information about Project Phoenix and your father's death. I filled in the blanks. He took a sip. I've been investigating Reeves for 3 years. You're not the first person to come to me with a story about him. But you're the first one who might actually have proof. How do you know I have proof? He smiled slightly. Because you're still alive. If you were just making noise, you'd already be in an accident. The fact that you're sitting here means you have something he wants. Something dangerous enough that he has to be careful how he handles you. A chill ran down my spine. You're saying he knows about me. Maya, he's known about you since the moment you walked into his office and saw that portrait. You think a man like Jonathan Reeves doesn't have surveillance? Doesn't monitor threats? Daniel leaned forward. The question is why he hasn't dealt with you yet. Maybe because I haven't done anything. Or maybe because he's trying to figure out what you know and who gave it to you. I thought about the USB drive, hidden in my shoe. About the mysterious message at the internet cafe. Someone gave me files, I said carefully. Videos. Documents. They show everything. Daniel's expression didn't change, but I saw his hand tighten on his coffee cup. Who gave them to you? I don't know. It just appeared in my pocket. Things don't just appear, Maya. Well, this one did. Along with a message telling me I was being watched and I should run. But you didn't run. No. Why not? I looked him dead in the eye. Because that man murdered my father and stole his life's work. Because my mother is dying in a hospital bed, broken from 20 years of struggling while he lives in a penthouse. Because running means he wins. Daniel studied me for a long moment. Can I see the files? Not here. Not until I know I can trust you. Smart. He pulled out a business card, slid it across the table. I work for a small outlet. Not the Times or the Post. We don't have their reach, but we also don't have their corporate owners. We can't be bought or silenced easily. I looked at the card. Independent Justice Tribune. An address in Queens. You've investigated Reeves before? Investigated, published, got sued into oblivion. He has an army of lawyers and unlimited money. Every story I've written about him gets buried under motions and countersuits until it's not worth pursuing. So why keep trying? Daniel's jaw tightened. Because 3 years ago, my sister worked for a Reeves subsidiary. She found accounting irregularities. Money being funneled to offshore accounts. She reported it internally, thinking she was doing the right thing. He paused, looking out the window at the gray Brooklyn street. 2 weeks later, she drove her car off a bridge. The police called it suicide. Said she was depressed, had a history of mental health issues. Except she didn't. She was the happiest person I knew. And the week before she died, she called me terrified, saying someone had been following her. I'm sorry, I said quietly. Don't be sorry. Help me prove it. Help me prove he's been doing this for decades. That he's built an empire on theft and murder and silence. I wanted to trust him. God, I wanted to believe someone was on my side. But my father had trusted Jonathan Reeves, and it had gotten him killed. I need to think about it, I said. Daniel nodded. Fair enough. But think fast. The longer you sit on that evidence, the more danger you're in. He stood up, dropped a 20 on the table. One more thing, he said. The person who gave you those files, they're either trying to help you or set you up. Be very careful which one it is. Then he walked out, leaving me alone with my cold coffee and spiraling thoughts. I sat there for another 10 minutes, watching the door, watching the windows, watching for anything that felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. Finally, I paid my bill and left. The subway ride back to Queens was packed with the afternoon crowd. I wedged myself into a corner, backpack clutched tight. Eyes on every person who got on or off. Paranoia or survival instinct. At this point, I couldn't tell the difference. My burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Hello. Maya Collins. The voice was distorted, run through some kind of filter. You met with Daniel Ward. My blood went cold. Who is this? The person who gave you the drive. And the person who's going to keep you alive if you follow instructions very carefully. I looked around the subway car. Nobody was paying attention to me. Everyone buried in their phones, their books, their own lives. How are you watching me? Does it matter? What matters is you're making mistakes, trusting journalists, carrying evidence on your person, using public transportation where you can be trapped. What do you want? To finish what your father started, to bring down Jonathan Reeves. But you're going to get yourself killed if you keep being reckless. The subway screeched into a station. People shuffled on and off. Get off at the next stop, the voice said. Walk north 3 blocks. There's a library. 2nd floor, computer section, terminal 7. Be there in 15 minutes. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only person who's kept you alive this long. Reeves has had 3 opportunities to kill you in the last 24 hours. Each time I've intervened. My mouth went dry. What are you talking about? The nurse at the hospital who got your mother's phone. She was paid to poison your mother's for. I stopped her. The car that almost hit you this morning on your way to the electronics store? Not an accident. I redirected it. And Daniel Ward? He's wearing a wire. Everything you said is being recorded. I looked down at my backpack, my heart hammering. You're lying. Am I? Check his business card. The one he gave you. With shaking hands, I pulled out the card Daniel had slid across the table. It looked normal. Independent Justice Tribune. Phone number. Email. Then I turned it over. On the back, in tiny print I'd missed before, audio monitoring enabled. Property of Reeves Security Solutions. The world tilted. Daniel Ward wasn't a journalist trying to expose Reeves. He worked for him. Get off at the next stop, Maya. Now. Or I can't help you. The subway was slowing down. The doors would open in seconds. Who are you? I demanded. Someone who loved your father. Someone who's been waiting 20 years for the right moment. That moment is now. But only if you survive the next hour. The doors opened. I hesitated for 1 heartbeat. Then I ran. I shoved through the crowd, ignoring the shouts and curses, and burst onto the platform. Sprinted up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. My backpack bouncing against my spine. Behind me, I heard shouting. Footsteps pounding. They were following. I hit street level and ran north, exactly like the voice had said. 1 block. 2 blocks. My lungs burning. 3 blocks. The library appeared like a fortress, stone and glass and promise of safety. I flew through the doors, past the security guard, up the stairs. 2nd floor. Computer section. Terminal 7. I collapsed into the chair, gasping for breath. The screen was already on. A text window was open. Look under the desk. I ducked down. Taped underneath was another USB drive and a post-it note. New identity. Cache. Instructions. You have 10 minutes before they find you. Read everything. Memorize it. Then destroy this note and run. I grabbed the drive and note, shoving them in my pocket. The library's main doors slammed open downstairs. Heavy footsteps. Multiple people. Excuse me, a deep voice said to the security guard. We're looking for a young woman. Brown hair. Backpack. She came in about 2 minutes ago. I didn't wait to hear more. I grabbed my backpack and headed for the emergency exit at the back of the floor. The alarm would sound. They'd know where I went. But staying meant getting caught. I hit the door running. The alarm shrieked. Behind me, shouts erupted. The stairwell was narrow, concrete, and smelled like mildew. I took the stairs down 3 at a time, my feet barely touching the ground. Burst through the back exit into an alley. A car was waiting. Old sedan, engine running, back door open. No time to think. No time to question. I dove in. The door slammed shut and we were moving before I even got my seatbelt on. I looked at the driver. A woman. Older, maybe 60, with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen things that broke people. Who? Quiet, she said. They'll be scanning for radio frequencies. Don't use your phone. Don't say anything until we're clear. She drove like someone who'd done this before. No speeding. No running lights. Just smooth, professional evasion through Brooklyn streets. 5 minutes passed in silence. Then 10. Finally, she pulled into an underground parking garage, killed the engine, and turned to face me. "Maya Collins," she said. "My name is Elena Shaw. And I need to tell you something about your father that's going to change everything you think you know." My brain stuttered. "Elena Shaw, you're dead. I saw your memorial page." She smiled grimly. "I know. I wrote it myself. But why?" "Because Jonathan Reeves tried to have me killed 6 years ago, and I decided to let him think he succeeded. It's easier to fight a war when your enemy believes you're already dead." She reached into her jacket and pulled out a faded photograph. It showed her, 20 years younger, standing with my father in front of the Phoenix prototype. But there was someone else in the photo. Someone I hadn't seen in any of the other pictures. A young woman, early 20s, smiling. "Who is that?" I asked. Elena's expression softened, pained. "That's your half-sister, Maya. Your father's daughter from before he met your mother. Her name was Rachel. And 3 months ago, she walked into Jonathan Reeves's office with a gun and tried to kill him." The world stopped. "I have a sister?" Had. Past tense. "She's in a psychiatric facility now. Maximum security." Reeves had her declared criminally insane to avoid a trial that would ask too many questions. Elena put the car in gear. "And tonight, you and I are going to break her out. Because she's the only other person alive who knows the full truth about Project Phoenix. And because if we don't get her out, Reeves will have her killed within 48 hours. She looked at me, and her eyes were hard as diamonds. "So here's the question, Maya. Are you ready to stop running and start fighting? Because once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be a fugitive. A criminal. Everything you've ever known will be gone." I thought about my father, dying on a laboratory floor. About my mother, broken and gasping in a hospital bed. About a sister I never knew existed, locked away to protect a billionaire's secrets. I pulled the USB drive from my shoe and handed it to Elena. "I stopped running the moment I saw my father's face in that portrait," I said. "Let's burn it all down." Elena smiled. Actually smiled. "Good. Because your father would be so proud of you right now." She pulled out of the parking garage. And I realized I just made a choice that would either destroy Jonathan Reeves or get me killed trying. So let me ask you something. If you discovered you had a sister you never knew about, locked away in a psychiatric prison to cover up a murder, would you risk everything to save her? Even if it meant becoming a criminal yourself? Comment below, because what Maya's about to do next is going to shock you. Breaking into a maximum security facility. Facing the sister she never knew existed. And discovering that everything she thought she knew about Project Phoenix was just the beginning. Because it turns out, her father didn't just invent a weapon. He invented something that could change the entire world. And Jonathan Reeves has been using it for 20 years without anyone knowing. The alarm was already blaring when I realized we'd triggered the wrong door. "Go, go, go!" Elena shouted, shoving me down the hallway as red lights strobed and sirens screamed. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to be quiet, surgical, in and out before anyone knew we were there. Instead, we were running through a maximum security psychiatric facility with half the staff mobilizing behind us, and I still hadn't found my sister. Let me back up 3 hours. The plan had seemed simple when Elena laid it out in the parking garage. She had blueprints of the facility, guard schedules, access codes from a sympathetic orderly she'd been cultivating for months. We'd go in during shift change, when security was lightest. Get to Rachel's wing. Extract her. Be gone before anyone noticed. Simple. Except nothing about breaking into a place designed to keep people locked up is ever simple. The facility was called Clearwater Heights, which was a pretty name for a prison. It sat on 20 acres in upstate New York, surrounded by forests and fences topped with razor wire. The kind of place families sent their problems when they had enough money to make those problems disappear. Rachel Collins, my half-sister, a phrase that still felt foreign in my mouth, had been here for 3 months. Committed after her failed attempt on Reeves's life. The official story was she'd had a psychotic break. Paranoid delusions about her father's death. The courts had been sympathetic. She needed help, not prison. What they meant was she needed to be silenced. Elena and I had driven up in stolen nurse uniforms, IDs she'd forged, and a delivery van she'd bought with cash. We'd parked in the service entrance at exactly 6:45 p.m., right when the evening shift was clocking in and the day shift was desperate to leave. The loading dock guard barely glanced at our IDs. "Medicine delivery," Elena said smoothly, holding up a clipboard. He waved us through. We'd walked into the facility like we belonged there, past orderlies pushing meal carts, past visitors leaving, past the everyday machinery of institutional life. Elena moved with confidence. I tried to copy her, but my heart was hammering so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. We took the service elevator to the 3rd floor. The secure wing, where they kept the patients deemed dangerous. That's when things started going wrong. The access code Elena had didn't work on the security door. She tried it twice. 3 times. The pad beeped angry red each time. "They changed it," she muttered. "They must have rotated codes since yesterday. What do we do?" She looked around. The hallway was empty for now, but shift change wouldn't last forever. "Plan B," she said, pulling a small device from her pocket. It looked like a garage door opener. "What's that?" "Fire alarm override. It'll trigger the emergency doors to unlock automatically. But it'll also alert everyone in the building that something's wrong. So we'll have maybe 5 minutes? 3. Maybe less." I thought about turning back. About the fact that I'd never met this sister. That for all I knew, she really was crazy. That breaking her out might be exactly the wrong move. Then I thought about my father's face in that video. The way he'd fought even as he died. "Do it," I said. Elena pressed the button. Nothing happened for a heartbeat. Then every alarm in the building started screaming. The security door's magnetic lock disengaged with a heavy chunk. Elena yanked it open and we ran inside. The secure wing was a long hallway with rooms on either side. Small windows in each door. The lights were dimmed for evening. Through the windows I could see patients. Some sleeping, some pacing, some sitting motionless, staring at walls. "Room 314, Elena said, checking a paper she'd pulled from her pocket. "End of the hall." We ran. Behind us, I heard shouts. Heavy doors opening. The security response was already mobilizing. Room 314's window showed a young woman sitting on a bed. She had dark hair like mine. Same nose. Same sharp cheekbones. My sister. Elena swiped her forged ID on the door. It clicked open. The woman looked up, and her eyes widened. "Elena!" Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't used it in days. "What are you?" "No time. We're leaving. Now." Rachel stood up fast. She was wearing standard-issue gray scrubs, barefoot, but her eyes were sharp. Alert. Not crazy at all. "Is this real?" she asked. "Or am I hallucinating again? They've been putting something in my food. Making me see things." "It's real," I said. "I'm Maya. I'm your sister. I know." She stared at me like I was a ghost. "You look just like Dad." Something twisted in my chest, but there was no time to process it. The shouting was getting closer. "Move!" Elena barked. We ran back down the hallway, but the security door we'd come through was already closing. Someone had overridden the fire alarm. "Stairs," Elena said, veering left. We burst through a door marked Emergency Exit and found ourselves in a concrete stairwell. Started down. That's when we heard boots thundering up from below. Up. Elena reversed direction. "Go up." We climbed. 3rd floor to 4th. 4th to 5th. The roof access door was locked, but Elena pulled out a small crowbar and jammed it into the frame. Wood splintered. The door gave way. We stumbled onto the roof. Night air hit my face, cool and sharp. The roof was flat, covered in gravel and air conditioning units. Beyond the edge, I could see the parking lot below, the forests beyond, the lights of the highway in the distance. We were trapped. Behind us, the door crashed open. 3 security guards poured out, guns drawn. Down on the ground. Now! Elena raised her hands slowly. Rachel froze beside me. I looked at my sister, really looked at her for the first time. She was younger than me, maybe 25. Thin, like she hadn't been eating well. But her eyes were fierce. "I'm not going back in there," she said quietly. "You don't have a choice," one of the guards said. "On the ground or we will put you there." That's when I heard it. A helicopter. The sound grew louder, and suddenly a spotlight hit us, bright as the sun. I shielded my eyes, trying to see. The helicopter descended, wind whipping the gravel into tiny storms. It was black, unmarked, and absolutely not part of any rescue I'd planned. A door slid open, and Jonathan Reeves leaned out, smiling. "Hello, Maya," his voice came through a speaker, amplified over the rotor noise. "I've been looking for you." My blood turned to ice. The security guards lowered their weapons, looking confused. "Sir," one of them said into his radio, "we have an unauthorized helicopter." "Stand down," a voice crackled back. "Mr. Reeves has clearance." Reeves's helicopter touched down on the roof, 20 feet away. He stepped out, flanked by 2 men in suits who moved like soldiers. He looked exactly like he had in his office. Expensive suit, perfect hair, that same casual confidence. But now I'd seen what was underneath. The monster who'd shot my father and burned him alive. "You've been very busy, Maya," he said, walking toward us. "Breaking into medical facilities. Consorting with fugitives." He glanced at Elena. "Dr. Shaw. Still alive. I'm almost impressed." "Go to hell, Jonathan," Elena said. He ignored her, focusing on Rachel. "And my favorite patient. How are you feeling, Rachel? Are the medications helping with your delusions?" Rachel's hands clenched into fists. "They're not delusions. You killed my father." "Our father," I said, stepping beside her. Reeves's eyes flicked between us. "Ah, you've met. How touching. 2 daughters, united in their grief and misinformation." "I've seen the video," I said. "I watched you shoot him." His smile didn't waver, but something cold flashed in his eyes. "Then you've seen a very convincing fake. Deep fake technology is remarkable these days. You can make anyone appear to do anything. It wasn't fake. Prove it. Take it to the police." "I'll wait." He spread his hands. "Oh, but you can't, can you? Because you're a fugitive now. You broke into a secured facility. Assaulted staff. You're a criminal, Maya. Just like your sister. Just like Dr. Shaw here, who's been wanted for insurance fraud for 6 years." Elena tensed. "That's a lie. Is it? Check the warrant database. I've been very patient, waiting for you to surface. And here you are." He was boxing us in. Every move we made, he'd anticipated. Every escape route, he'd already closed. "What do you want?" I asked. "The same thing I wanted from your father. Cooperation. You have something I need. Those files. The originals. Not copies. Not encrypted backups. The raw footage and documents. Give them to me, and this all goes away." Rachel gets released into outpatient care. Dr. Shaw's warrant disappears. And you, Maya, you go back to your normal life. Normal? I laughed bitterly. You killed my father. You've been hunting me for days. There's no normal anymore. There could be. Money helps. Enough to take care of your mother for the rest of her life. The best treatments. The best doctors. All you have to do is hand over the files and forget this vendetta. I looked at Rachel. At Elena. At the guns pointed at us. We were cornered. outmanned, outgunned. Reeves had won. Except Rachel was smiling. "What's funny?" Reeves asked her. "You," she said. "You really think we came here unprepared?" His expression shifted. Uncertain for the first time, Rachel pulled something from her pocket. A small remote, like a key fob. "You know what Dad always said? Always have a contingency. Always have leverage." She pressed the button. Nothing happened. Reeves relaxed. Nice bluff. Then every light in the facility went out. The darkness was total. The backup generators should have kicked in immediately, but they didn't. In the confusion, Elena grabbed my arm. "Run!" We sprinted toward the edge of the roof. I didn't understand where we were going until I saw it. A rope, already tied to an air conditioning unit, hanging over the side. "You planned this," I gasped. "I planned for everything," Elena said. "Go!" Rachel went first, rappelling down with practiced ease. Elena followed. I grabbed the rope, my hands shaking. Behind me, flashlights clicked on. Reeves was shouting orders. I swung over the edge and dropped. The rope burned my palms. The ground rushed up. I hit the grass rolling, the air knocked from my lungs. Rachel pulled me up. "There's a car." 200 yards. Through the trees. We ran. Flashlights swept the area behind us. Shouts echoed. The helicopter's engine was starting up again. We crashed through the underbrush, branches whipping my face. My lungs screamed. My legs burned. But I kept running. Because I just looked Jonathan Reeves in the eye and lived. Because my sister, had just saved us with some plan I didn't understand. Because somewhere in those files, in that evidence, was something so dangerous that a billionaire had landed on a prison roof personally to stop us. We burst out of the trees. A van was waiting, engine running. We piled in. Elena hit the gas before the door was even closed. We roared onto the highway, leaving Clearwater Heights behind. For a long moment, nobody spoke. We just breathed, gasping, alive. Then Rachel started laughing. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes when you've been scared so badly that joy and terror get mixed up. "Did you see his face?" she gasped. "When the lights went out? How did you do that?" I asked. She held up the remote. "I've been planning this for 3 months. Made friends with the maintenance staff. Learned the electrical system. Planted a timer on the main breaker during yesterday's rec time. That button didn't actually do anything. But he didn't know that." Elena was grinning as she drove. "Your father would be so proud." Rachel's smile faded. "Yeah, he would." She turned to me, and I saw tears in her eyes. "I never thought I'd meet you," she said quietly. "Dad talked about you all the time. His little Maya bug. He said you were the good thing he'd done right. The one pure thing in his life." My throat closed up. "He talked about you?" "Before he died. We had 2 years together before Reeves killed him. He told me about Mom. About you. Said someday, when it was safe, we'd be a family." "Why didn't I know about you?" "Because he was trying to protect us. Keep us separated so Reeves couldn't use us against each other. Guess that didn't work." We drove in silence for a while. Elena navigating back roads, avoiding cameras and tolls. Finally, I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. "What is Project Phoenix really?" Reeves said it was just solar technology, but there's something more, isn't there? Rachel and Elena exchanged a look. "Tell her," Elena said. Rachel took a deep breath. "Project Phoenix isn't just an energy source, Maya. It's a battery. The most efficient energy storage system ever created. Once it's charged, it can power a city for a year. Or it can release that energy all at once. Like a bomb. Worse. Like the sun falling to Earth. One Phoenix device, fully charged and detonated, could level everything within a 100-mile radius. Make Hiroshima look like a firecracker." My blood went cold. "And Reeves has been building them? Selling them? To governments, militaries, anyone with enough money. He's been doing it for 20 years, telling buyers it's just advanced solar. But he knows. He's always known what it could do. How many has he sold? Rachel's face went pale. According to the files Dad left me, 47. Across 12 countries. The world tilted. 47 bombs. Hidden as clean energy. Sitting in power grids across the world. Any one of them could be weaponized. Could kill millions. And Jonathan Reeves was the only person who knew where they all were. We have to stop him, I said. That's why Dad died trying, Rachel said. And why I tried to kill Reeves. And why Elena's been hiding for 6 years. She pulled out her own USB drive, identical to the one I had. Dad gave us each half of the puzzle. You have the evidence of the murder. I have the technical specs and the list of where every Phoenix device is located. Together, we have everything we need to expose him. And what happens when we do? I asked. When the world finds out there are dozens of potential superweapons just sitting in power plants? Panic, Elena said flatly. Chaos. Governments scrambling. Wars, probably. It's going to be ugly. But necessary, Rachel added. Because right now, Reeves controls them all. He can activate any of them remotely. And if someone crosses him, if a country doesn't pay up, if anyone threatens his empire. She didn't need to finish. Jonathan Reeves wasn't just a billionaire. He was holding the entire world hostage. And we were the only people who knew. The van's headlights cut through the darkness. We were somewhere in Pennsylvania now, heading south on backroads. So what's the plan? I asked. Elena pulled into an abandoned rest stop and killed the engine. We verify everything. Cross-reference your files with Rachel's. Make sure we have the complete picture. Then we find someone we can trust to publish it. Someone big enough that Reeves can't silence them. Like who? I have contacts, she said. People who've been waiting years for a story like this. But we need to be smart. One mistake and we're dead. All of us. Rachel was staring at her phone. We have another problem. She turned the screen toward me. It was a news alert. Breaking news banner. My face on the screen. Dangerous fugitive sought in connection with psychiatric facility break-in. Maya Collins, 27, considered armed and dangerous. Sister Rachel Collins also missing. Public urged not to approach. $10,000 reward for information leading to capture. My face was everywhere now. Rachel's too. Elena's dead. Status probably wouldn't hold up much longer either. He's making us famous, I said. He's making us targets, Elena corrected. Every cop, every bounty hunter, every person who needs $10,000 is now looking for us. My father was alive. Those were the words staring at me from the laptop screen, and my brain couldn't make them make sense. I was sitting in a motel room that smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams, somewhere outside Baltimore, watching Rachel scroll through encrypted files while Elena kept watch at the window. And there, buried in a folder marked Safe House Communications, was a message dated 6 months ago. David Collins. Alive. Location confirmed. Meadowbrook address verified. Awaiting contact protocol. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set down my coffee. Rachel, I said, my voice cracking. What is this? She looked over, saw what I was reading, and her face went pale. Maya, I was going to tell you. Tell me what? That our father isn't dead? That everything we've been through, everything Mom went through, was for nothing? Elena turned from the window. It's not that simple. Then make it simple. I stood up, the chair scraping loud against the floor. Is he alive or not? Rachel closed the laptop slowly. We don't know. Not for sure. That message says location confirmed. Click the image showing on your screen right now to watch part 2. More betrayals, more truth, more secrets are yet to be uncovered.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. so do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.